Hi everybody and welcome to Down Home Dietitian. One of the most common questions I get is about carbohydrates. Are they good? Are they bad? Should I cut them out entirely? Are there good carbs? Are there bad carbs? We're going to demystify them today. So a carbohydrate is, by definition, any food that's made up of little pieces of glucose. And when we eat it, our body takes apart the pieces of glucose and absorbs them, and they go into our bloodstream and become blood sugar, which is our body's primary source of energy. So carbs are pretty important, actually. We don't want to cut them out entirely, and there are certain types of carbs that are more problematic than others. So let's get into that. Some carbohydrates are made of individual pieces of glucose or pieces that are hooked together in short little chains like this. Some types of carbohydrates are hooked together in big long chains like this. This is the difference between what we call a simple carbohydrate versus a complex carbohydrate. This is important to know because the difference between these two is huge. You can see here there are 6 pieces of glucose here, 6 pieces of glucose here, exact same amount of calories, exact same amount of carbohydrates, and these two things are going to act totally different once they get into your bloodstream. So let's take the simple carbohydrate, for example. A simple carbohydrate, remember our body has to break apart all these little bonds in order to get the sugars into the bloodstream and become blood sugar. So with the simple carbohydrate, there's only 2 little bonds to break here. So if we break these 2 bonds, all 6 of those glucoses are ready to rock. They go into the bloodstream really quickly. And your body goes, holy smokes, this is way more energy than I need right this minute. And I know that I don't want to keep all this glucose in my bloodstream. That's not good for me. So I'm going to start putting it away different places. I'm going to use the part that I need right now. And then the extra, I'm going to put away in long-term storage for energy that I don't need right now, but I might need someday. And that's your fat stores. As far as your body's concerned, your fat stores are its emergency fund. So it's going to store all that away, and it's going to react strongly to this sharp increase in blood sugar and bring it back down pretty quickly. Complex carbohydrates, on the other hand, there are several bonds in this chain. If we break only 2, as we did over here, only 2 glucoses are going to be free to enter the bloodstream. So those are going to go in much more low and slow. I call these crockpot carbs. The energy goes in a little bit at a time because they take a little bit longer to digest. So they're going to give us a little bit of energy over a longer period of time. And what that does, by not having the sharp, spiky increase in blood sugar, is not going to cause our body to react so strongly by sending out a bunch of insulin and just trying to get that blood sugar down as quickly as possible. It's going to get the right amount of energy to feed it over a longer period of time, and it's not going to have that kind of overreaction situation. So 2 major differences happen here. With a simple carbohydrate, if we've eaten enough simple carbohydrate that we've met our energy needs for the moment and then some, we're going to see some of the extra being put away in long-term storage. Now, to be clear, this can happen if we overeat a complex carb too. There's nothing that says that can't happen, but typically a simple carb is going to spike up higher with the same amount. And then also, one of our hunger signals is low blood sugar. So we're going to start to feel hungry as soon as our blood sugar hits a certain low point that our body doesn't like. So you can see here where we've returned kind of to baseline right here with the simple carbohydrate versus here with a complex. So we're going to see complex carbohydrates giving us a more even, moderate amount of energy for a longer period of time and keeping us satisfied for longer than simple carbohydrates. So the next natural question is, what kind of foods are complex carbohydrates? We're going to pop a list of them up here. You're going to see things like whole foods, whole plant foods to be specific, because carbohydrates are primarily found in plant foods. You're going to see them in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, and a little bit in dairy. Now, to be clear, the types of carbohydrates that typically show up in dairy and in fruits are more often simple carbohydrates. However, the foods come with a natural sort of nutritional buffer that slows their digestion down and makes them go into the bloodstream more evenly and more like a complex than a simple carbohydrate. So you'll see that in the case of fruit because it has fiber to slow digestion, and with dairy products because it has protein that helps slow digestion. Simple carbohydrates tend to come more often in things that have been refined or processed somehow that make them less complex or less nutritionally balanced. You'll find this in fruit juice, refined sugars, and refined grain products. So now you know that there's a certain amount of carbohydrate you absolutely need to meet your body's energy needs. And it can be just as problematic to not eat enough carbs as it can be to eat too many carbs. So it's really important that you get carbs. Enjoy complex carbohydrates in place of simple whenever possible to help regulate your energy, blood sugar, and manage your weight. So one thing I want to always make sure comes across to my clients and to you guys is that when we're looking at things that are nutritionally better than something else, it's really important that you don't take this as a list of evil bad foods versus good, clean, healthy foods. Foods of all kinds can fit into a healthy diet and absolutely should, particularly if they are your favorites and make you super duper happy. So always, 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 when you look at lists like this, take them as education and information, not as food rules. Make sure if there's something that you absolutely love sitting there on the simple carbohydrate list, don't cut it out. Don't feel like you should never eat it again, and absolutely never feel guilty when you do eat it. Instead, look at both lists and see, oh, are there certain carbohydrates that, oh, sure, I could switch to brown rice, I could switch to whole grain bread, but oh, I just absolutely love my Pringles, for example. Take your potato chips, keep those, make changes elsewhere. Ultimately, you're still taking steps in a healthier direction and you get to keep the foods that make you super duper happy. Don't ever cut out things you absolutely love just because they're on a less healthy list. Thanks for watching. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to see more, and don't forget, healthy doesn't have to be hard.